Retention won't fix your life. But most people don't want to hear that. Because it's easier to believe that holding something in will magically repair everything that's already falling apart. So they try it. They stop the habit. They build a streak. They feel a little different. And for a moment, it seems like it's working. Until everything else catches up. The same confusion. The same lack of direction. The same patterns, just quieter, not gone. And that's when frustration sets in. Because the promise they believed in was never the full picture. Retention doesn't rebuild your life. It only reveals what's already there. Most people don't approach retention with clarity. They approach it with hope. Not grounded, steady hope, but the kind that's tied to escape. They believe that if they just hold on long enough, discipline will appear, confidence will stabilize, purpose will somehow emerge on its own. But look closely. Nothing in your daily structure actually changes. You still wake up without direction. You still move through the day reacting instead of deciding. You still avoid the things that require effort and precision. The only difference is, you've removed one outlet. So all the pressure that used to be released, now stays within you. And without structure, that pressure doesn't transform. It builds. It turns into restlessness, irritation, overthinking. Not because retention is flawed, but because it's being asked to do something it was never designed to do. Fixing a life without foundation. And that's the mistake. Retention isn't a starting point. It's an amplifier. Which means if your life lacks order, direction, and intention, you won't feel better. You'll just feel it more. Before anything stabilizes, before clarity becomes consistent, before discipline feels natural, there has to be structure. Not motivation. Not intensity. Not another promise to yourself. Structure. Because without it, your day is decided for you. You wake up and drift. From your phone, to random thoughts, to whatever feels easiest in the moment. Hours pass, but nothing is directed. And in that kind of environment, retention doesn't ground you, it exposes the chaos. Energy increases, but it has nowhere to go. Attention sharpens, but nothing is guiding it. Awareness expands, but there's no system to hold it in place. So instead of progress, you feel overwhelmed. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you skip the part that gives everything else meaning. Structure is what turns intention into movement. It's the difference between saying, "I need to get my life together," and knowing exactly what happens when you wake up tomorrow. When you train, when you work, when you sit in silence, when you step away. Simple anchors in your day that don't rely on how you feel. Because feelings change. Structure doesn't. And once that's in place, something shifts. Your mind stops negotiating every action. Your energy stops scattering in different directions. Your time starts forming a pattern you can actually build on. That's when retention begins to make sense. Not as something you depend on, but as something that strengthens what already exists. Because now, there's somewhere for that energy to go. Into your work. Into your focus. Into the decisions you've already committed to. And instead of feeling like pressure, it starts to feel like control. Not forced. Not rigid. Just clear. And clarity doesn't come from holding something in. It comes from knowing exactly where your life is moving. And why. Once structure is in place, retention stops feeling like a struggle. And starts behaving like a multiplier. It doesn't create direction. It doesn't build discipline from nothing. It doesn't suddenly give you purpose. It takes what's already there and intensifies it. So if your days are structured, your actions are intentional, your focus is already being directed, retention amplifies that. Your work becomes deeper. Your attention holds longer. Your decisions feel more precise. Not because something new was added, but because nothing is leaking. The same energy that used to be scattered now moves in one direction. And that's where people get it wrong. They think retention is the source of power. But it's not. It's a force that follows alignment. If your life is disorganized, it amplifies confusion. If your habits are weak, it amplifies inconsistency. If you avoid discomfort, it amplifies that avoidance. But if your structure is solid, it sharpens everything. Your mornings feel intentional. Your work gains momentum. Your mind becomes less reactive, more deliberate. And over time, something subtle happens. You stop thinking about retention itself. It's no longer the focus. Because your attention has shifted to building something real, a life that has direction, weight, and movement. Retention just supports it. Quietly. Consistently. Like fuel in a system that's already running. And that's the difference. When there's no structure, retention feels like pressure. When there is structure, it feels like acceleration. Same practice. Different outcome. Not because retention changed, but because you did. There's a phase most people don't talk about. It comes after the initial discipline. After the streak starts building. After you begin to feel like you're on track. Everything seems like it's improving. You feel more in control. More aware. More different. And that feeling can be convincing. But here's the problem. Feeling different isn't the same as becoming different. Because if you look closely, what has actually changed? Your environment is the same. Your daily actions are still inconsistent. The things you've been avoiding are still there. Unmoved. Untouched. But internally, there's a sense of progress. And that's where the illusion forms. Retention can create a heightened state, a kind of internal intensity that feels like growth. But intensity without direction isn't growth. It's just energy circulating within the same patterns. So you start mistaking awareness for transformation. You notice more, but you don't act more. You think more clearly, but you don't move differently. And over time, that gap widens between what you feel and what your life actually reflects. That's when frustration quietly returns. Because deep down, you can sense it. Nothing real has shifted. Not in a way that holds. And this is where most people either quit or double down blindly. They think they need more time, a longer streak, more control. But the issue was never time. It was direction. Retention didn't fail you. It simply revealed that feeling better was never the goal. Becoming different is. And that only happens when your actions change, consistently, deliberately, and in alignment with something real. Otherwise, you stay in the same place, just more aware of it. When energy builds, but has no clear path, it doesn't elevate you. It turns against you. This is the part most people misunderstand. They think more energy automatically means more progress, more drive, more control. But energy without direction is unstable. It needs somewhere to go. And if you don't choose that direction, it defaults to what's familiar. Old habits, distractions, mental loops you thought you left behind. Not because you're weak, but because your system is unorganized. So the pressure builds. You feel it in your body, in your thoughts, in the way you can't fully relax or fully focus. You try to sit still, but your mind keeps moving, jumping, looking for release. And eventually, something gives. Either you break the streak, or you stay in it, but become tense, irritated, and disconnected. Neither is progress. It's just unmanaged pressure. Because retention didn't create stability, it exposed the lack of it. Real stability comes from channeling. From knowing ahead of time where that energy goes. Into physical effort. Into focused work. Into building something that demands your attention. Not occasionally, but consistently. So there's no question of, what do I do with this? It's already decided. And once that happens, the pressure changes. It's no longer something you're trying to control. It becomes something you're using. Deliberately. Quietly. With purpose. And for the first time. Retention stops feeling like something you're holding back. And starts feeling like something that's moving you forward. There's a point where everything starts to feel different. Not in an intense way. Not in a dramatic, emotional shift. But in something quieter. More stable. Your days begin to follow a rhythm. Not perfect, but consistent. You wake up, and there's no debate. No long internal negotiation about what you should do. You already know. Because the structure is there. The decisions have been made in advance. And you follow them. Not because you feel motivated, but because it's become normal. That's when clarity settles in. Not as a sudden realization, but as the absence of confusion. You're not constantly questioning your direction. You're not looking for the next method, the next fix. You're simply moving, step by step, day by day. And within that movement, retention finds its place. It's no longer the center of your attention. It's not something you're counting or obsessing over. It's just there, supporting everything else. Your focus holds longer. Your presence feels sharper. Your energy doesn't feel scattered anymore, because it's being used, regularly, intentionally. And the difference is undeniable. Not in how you feel in a moment, but in what your life starts to reflect over time. Work gets done. Decisions carry weight. Distractions lose their pull. Not because you're forcing discipline, but because your system is working. This is what most people were actually looking for from the beginning. Not retention itself, but the stability, the clarity, the sense of direction. And ironically, those things only appear when retention stops being the focus. When it becomes secondary to how you live. That's when things align. Not perfectly, but solidly enough that you can keep building, without constantly starting over. Retention was never meant to fix your life. It was never the foundation, never the starting point, never the thing that holds everything together. It only reveals what's already in place. If there's no structure, you feel the chaos more clearly. If there's no direction, you feel the confusion more intensely. If your actions don't align, you notice the gap without distraction. And that's uncomfortable. But it's also honest. Because for the first time, you're not numbing it. You're seeing it clearly. And that clarity gives you a choice. You can keep expecting retention to do the work for you. Or you can start building something it can actually support. Something structured. Something intentional. Something real. Because when that foundation is there, everything changes. Not instantly, not dramatically, but consistently. And consistency is what rebuilds a life, not a streak. If this made you look at your situation differently, take a moment and reflect on what actually applies to you. Not what sounds good, but what's real in your day-to-day. And if you're willing, share what stood out to you. Because sometimes clarity doesn't come from hearing more. It comes from finally acknowledging what's already there.